She didn't cry. She poured Lipton and signed 3 contracts. A man in his white linen. That cost more than most people's monthly salary. Sitting very still in a chair that probably cost more than that. On the table beside him, a glass of Hennessy, poured untouched. The ice has long since melted. He has not noticed. Below him, the Lagos lagoon lies flat and black and indifferent. The city hums. The generator runs. Everything is exactly as it should be for a man who has everything. He is not looking at any of it. He is looking at nothing. The specific nothing of a man replaying a moment. A laugh. A rooftop. A woman who used to be his. And understanding, for the first time, the full weight of a decision he made 4 years ago over a pot of egusi soup. He picks up the Hennessy. He puts it down without drinking. That is the whole story, really. Everything else is just the explanation. The morning after the gala. Kevin Adeyemi did not sleep that night. He got home from the gala at 10:30, sent Sunday home, poured himself a glass of Hennessy he did not drink, and sat on the balcony of his Banana Island house watching the Lagos lagoon lie flat and black and indifferent in the dark. The house cost 280 million naira. He had paid for it in 2 tranches. There was a cinema room on the ground floor, and a gym he used twice a week, and a kitchen large enough to host a cooking show. There was nobody in any of it except him, and the security man at the gate, and the generator that ran on its own because silence in Lagos is always provisional. He sat on the balcony with his Hennessy, and he thought about Lara's laugh. Not the CEO version. The Tejuosho Road version. The version she had, doing tonight on that rooftop. Full and unguarded and completely unconcerned with how it looked. Aimed at Daniel Obi, who had been watching it the way you watch a sunrise when you have made a specific decision to be awake for it. Kevin, 2 a.m. Banana Island. The real reason is that she made me feel things I wasn't ready for. You saw me. The real version. The boy from Mushin who was still afraid under the ambition. And I couldn't stand being seen. Not then. So I left. I told myself it was strategy. It was fear. I dressed it up in ambition, and called it growth, and buried the truth in a lecky flat, and walked away from it like a man who doesn't know the value of what he's leaving. Daniel knew. Daniel always knew. That's why I'm sitting here at 2 in the morning in a house that cost more than most people's dreams. And the only thing in it is me and the sound of a generator. He called. It rang 4 times. Then Daniel answered, warm, unhurried, the voice of a man with a clear conscience. Kevin. It's 2 a.m. I know. Are you with her? The careful pause of a man who is deciding how honest to be at 2 in the morning. Yes. I saw you. At the gala. Both of you. I know. You should have told me, Daniel. Guy, you left her. You did not lose her in a car accident. You sat her down. You told her she did not fit your life. And you walked out while her soup was still hot on the stove. What exactly did you want me to tell you? Kevin had no answer. Lagos hummed outside. The generator kept running. They met for suya the following evening. Was market in Abuja style. The kind of suya spot where the smoke is the ambience. Where the wooden benches have absorbed 20 years of pepper and conversation. Where men bring their real feelings because the environment does not reward performance. Kevin was there first. He ordered for both of them. The way he always had. The habit of friendship. Daniel arrived at 7, sat down, picked up a stick of suya, and ate it before he spoke. How long? Kevin leaned forward. Ready. He had rehearsed this question. He had an answer waiting. 8 months. Daniel, 8 months you said nothing. While I was still processing what I lost. Daniel set down his suya. He looked at Kevin the way a doctor looks at a patient, who has diagnosed himself incorrectly and is about to be gently, completely corrected. Kevin, I need to stop you before this goes somewhere it shouldn't go. Don't. Just answer the question. Lara and I are not together. The night around them continued as if nothing had happened. Voices, laughter, the hiss of meat on an open grill. Kevin stared at him. What? We are not together. We have never been together. She is my friend. One of my oldest friends. I was there at the gala because she invited me. As a friend. The way she has invited me to things for the last 6 years. The way I was at her mother's birthday in Ibadan. The way I was at the opening of her first office. As a friend, Kevin. That is the only thing I have ever been to her. Kevin opened his mouth. Closed it. The Hennessy from 2 nights ago had not helped. This was not helping either. But the way you were looking at her. I was looking at my friend who was having a good evening. A person can admire someone's happiness. Kevin. It doesn't mean what you decided it meant. The silence between them had a texture now. Kevin felt something shift in his chest. Not relief. Not quite. Something more complicated. The specific humiliation of a man who has been grieving the wrong loss.
Then who? His name is Emeka Okafor. It's Mr. Okafor's cousin. Came back from Toronto about 8 months ago. He was at the gala because Okafor brought him. He met Lara and apparently, don't, you asked.
Kevin looked at the untouched suya in front of him. Then he laughed. Came out wrong. Dry and short and not remotely funny. The laugh of a man who has just understood the punchline of a joke that was entirely at his own expense. I sat with my oldest friend over suya. I couldn't eat. And I understood what I had done. I had spent 2 weeks constructing a grief that wasn't even accurately aimed. Daniel wasn't the story. He was never the story. I had turned him into a villain because it was easier than admitting the truth. That Lara had moved on so completely, so naturally, that the man she chose wasn't even someone I knew to be afraid of. He was someone new. Someone who showed up after I was already gone. After I had already made myself irrelevant. That is a harder thing to sit with than jealousy. Jealousy has heat in it. This was cold. Daniel was quiet for a moment. Then, with the patience of a man who has been someone's friend for 22 years. Guy. I'm not your enemy. I'm your oldest friend. I was there when you had nothing. I loaned you transport money when you couldn't get from Mushin to the mainland for a meeting. But I also sat across from you at this same kind of table and told you directly, that Lara was not ordinary, and that what you were about to do was a mistake. You did it anyway. So what exactly are you asking me for tonight? Guilt. I don't have any to give you. Her back. Kevin. That one is not mine to give. It was never mine to give. Kevin was quiet for a long time. The night moved around them.
Does she know we met? I'm going to tell her. I don't keep things from her.
That detail. I don't keep things from her. landed somewhere specific. Because Kevin had kept many things from Lara. He had kept his discomfort with where she came from. His ambition. Poisoned calculations about who she was allowed to be beside him. The simple truth that he was afraid of how much she meant to him. He had kept all of that, and called it privacy. Called it being a man. Kev. Become a better man. Not for her. She's moved on. And she's moved on well. For yourself. You have everything and you are sitting here looking like a man who has nothing. That means the problem is inside the house. Not outside it. Fix the inside. Kevin Adeyemi was not a man who accepted outcomes he had not chosen. He had built an entire career on the refusal to accept first answers. Doors that closed became windows. No became not yet. He told himself this was the same situation. He sent flowers to Okafor Meridian Tower on a Wednesday morning. Not ordinary flowers. He called a florist in Ikoyi who dealt in the kind of arrangements that get photographed for magazine features. White and gold orchids. Because Lara had once said, in the Yaba self-contain, that orchids were the only flower she found genuinely honest. The flowers arrived at 10:30. The receptionist called Lara's PA. Lara's PA called Lara. Lara looked at the card, looked at the flowers, and said 3 words. Return them, please. The flowers were back in Kevin's office by noon. Kevin's assistant Amara set the returned flowers on his desk, with the expression of a woman who has just witnessed a man embarrass himself in slow motion and is choosing, out of professional loyalty, not to comment, she said.
Oga, the flowers came back or? Should I throw them or?
Leave them. Throw them.
He tried a letter next. Handwritten. 3 pages. Composed at midnight on paper. He had driven Sunday to get from a stationery shop in Ikeja. He wrote about the goosey soup night. He wrote about being wrong. He sent it through Amara, who delivered it personally to Okafor Meridian with the gravity of a diplomatic envoy. Lara received it. She read it at her desk with a cup of Lipton tea on her right and 3 unsigned contracts on her left. She read it once. Then she set it down, picked up her pen, and signed all 3 contracts. Then she called her PA. Draft a brief acknowledgement for Mr. Adeyemi's correspondence. Professional. Warm but conclusive. No invitation for further communication. I read every word. Course I did. He writes the way he used to talk in the self-contain, with that honest, half-unguarded quality that was always the best thing about him. Felt the letter. I am not made of stone. But feeling something and acting on it are 2 different things. And I have worked too hard on the difference to collapse it now. He is sorry. Believe that. But sorry returns a thing to 0. It does not undo the goosey night. It does not unremember being called someone who does not fit. I signed the contracts. That is my answer. Not because I am cold. 'Cause I am clear. The deal negotiations were entering their 3rd week. Kevin engineered a reason to meet Lara outside the formal sessions, a request for a bilateral review, one-on-one. Professional language for, I need 10 minutes with you that are not about the merger. I know what you're going to say. Then let me say it anyway. 4 years ago I made the worst decision of my life. Not because I had to. Not because you weren't enough. 'Cause I was afraid. Of being known. Of being seen. Of the fact that you saw me, the actual me. not the version I was building, and loved me anyway. And that terrified me more than any deal I've ever been in. So I left. Called it growth. It was cowardice. Lara looked at him. Long. Complete. The way she always looked at things she was reading thoroughly. I know. I knew all of that. Kevin. I knew it then. That's why it hurt the way it did. Because I could see you were afraid and I couldn't make you stay. Then, the answer is still no. I am not here to undo my life because you finished being afraid. I built something while you were working through your fears. And the life I built, it has someone in it. Someone who was present from the beginning. Who chose me when I was not yet all of this. I am not going to subtract him to make room for your realization. He paused at the door.
I want you to be happy, Kevin. Genuinely, not because of what we were, because of what you could still become. Go and become it, just not here, not in my direction.
Emeka Okaforis had been back in Lagos 8 months when he met Lara Davis at his cousin's gala. He had spent 7 years in Toronto. An architect by training, a quietly purposeful man by disposition, and had returned not because Lagos had called to him sentimentally, but because he had looked at his work and understood that the problems he most wanted to solve were here. He was not loud about this. It was simply true. He had met her by the window, away from the speeches, where she was standing with a glass of water instead of champagne and looking at the city, below with the expression of someone who is already thinking about tomorrow. He had said something about the skyline. She had said something back that was sharper and more interesting than he expected. They had talked for 40 minutes and neither of them had noticed. He called her 3 days later. Not to impress. Not to perform. He called because he had spent 3 days thinking about things she had said and he wanted to know what she thought about other things. That was Emeka. He was interested. Genuinely, specifically, unhurriedly interested in her work, in her mind, in the way she thought about problems, in the woman she had built herself into and the woman she was still becoming. He did not need her to be smaller. He did not need her to be quieter. He had come back to Lagos to do serious work. And he recognized serious work when he saw it. He never made me feel like I was too much. He never made me feel like my ambition was a thing to be managed. He asked questions and he listened to the answers and he remembered what I said the next time. That sounds simple. It is not simple. It is, I have learned, quite rare. He came from abroad and found me exceptional. He has not stopped finding me exceptional. That is not a small thing to have. Here is what Lara Davis's Wednesday looks like. She is awake by 5:15. Not because anyone told her to be. Because her mind is already running, not anxiously, but with the purposeful hum of a woman who wakes up looking forward to what she has to do. She makes her own tea. She has a housekeeper, but she makes her own tea in the morning because that is her time. The 15 minutes before the day becomes other people's business. She reviews her calendar over the first cup. She answers 3 urgent emails that arrived while Lagos was sleeping. She calls her mother in Ibadan at 5:45, her mother, who still wakes up at 5 because teachers do, even retired ones, and they talk for 12 minutes about nothing important and everything that matters. Her younger brother's school fees, a cousin's naming ceremony, whether the EBA in Ibadan is better than the EBA in Lagos. It always is. They both know this. Emeka is still asleep. She knows by the quality of the silence from the bedroom. She does not wake him. He is not a morning person and she has never tried to make him one. This is one of the small miracles of a relationship where two people have accepted each other's actual shape. The office by 8. 6 meetings before noon. A board paper she has redrafted twice. Because the first version was good and the second version was better. And she does not submit things she knows she can improve. 3 contracts signed. 1 rejected with a detailed explanation that her legal team will use as a template for the next 18 months by 6 p.m. She is in her car heading home and she is not tired. She is satisfied. The satisfaction of a woman who has spent her day doing work that is hers, in a building that is hers, with a name on the door that she put there herself. Emeka has cooked. Imperfectly. He is a willing but ambitious cook whose reach consistently exceeds his grasp. But the flat smells like effort and garlic and the kind of evening that you don't want to end. They eat at the table and they talk and they argue gently about something inconsequential and then agree on something important. And later they sit on the balcony of the Lekki Phase 2 apartment with its view of the lagoon and they watch Lagos do its night thing. Lara looks at the water. She thinks briefly about the kitchen table in the Yaba self-contain. About Titi's mattress. About the 4 a.m. mornings with the Icon textbooks. About the letter she wrote on the best paper in Yaba. That changed everything. Then Emeka says something that makes her laugh. Loud and full, and she is entirely, completely present. Amara noticed the change before anyone else did. She was paid to notice things. Kevin started leaving the office earlier. For Kevin Adeyemi, who had been known to call meetings at 9 p.m. Leaving at 6 was an event significant enough to merit quiet discussion. He cancelled the Abuja deal he had been structuring for 3 months. Not because it was bad, it was excellent. Because when he sat in the room reviewing the final terms, he felt nothing. Not satisfaction. Not hunger. Not the specific aliveness he used to feel when a deal was close to closing. Just information. Numbers. Paper. He drove to Mushin on a Saturday. Not for a meeting. He drove to the street where he grew up. Past the block where the secondary school was. Past the small church his mother still attended. Past the compound where he had lived in one of 4 rooms with his parents and his sister, until he left at 22 with 1 bag and a plan. He sat in the G-Wagon outside the compound for 20 minutes. A woman selling akara at the corner gave him the specific Lagos look that says, "I don't know you but I'm watching you." Kevin rolled down the window and bought a wrap of akara. He ate it in the car. Tasted exactly the same as he remembered. Some things don't change with your income bracket. He left Lara because she reminded him of poverty. This is the truest and most shameful version of the thing. She was not poor, but she was from the same place he was from. And he had decided, somewhere between the first 15 million and the first G-Wagon, that his people were not enough for who he was becoming. He had looked at the woman who stayed up until 3 in the morning to build his pitch deck and thought, she is too small for my new world. When in fact she was larger than any room he had ever entered. He was the small one. He had always been the small one. He had just had enough money to build a big house around it and call it success. He went to see his mother that weekend. She made him jollof rice from scratch. He ate 2 plates. "You look like a man who has been running," his mother said. "I have been running," Kevin said. "From what?" "Myself. Mostly." His mother chewed her food and thought about this. Then, that girl. The one from before. Lara. I liked her. She called me mama and she meant it. The one after her. The senator's daughter. She said good afternoon like she was paying for the privilege. There is a difference. She became her own boss. She became more than I imagined she would. And she's with someone else now. Not Daniel. New man. Someone who found her after I had already thrown her away. Better than you. Better than the me I was. Better than the version that left her. His mother nodded. She poured him more jollof. Then become the version that stays next time. That's all I have to say. The Okafor Meridian Adeyemi capital deal closes on a Thursday afternoon. The final signing happens in the same conference room where it all began. The 38th floor. The glass table. The city 40 floors below doing its eternal, indifferent work. Lara signs first. She does it with the efficiency of a woman who has reviewed every word of every document at least 3 times. She does not look up from the page while she signs. Kevin signs second. He watches her while he holds his own pen. She is looking at the next document in the stack. She does not notice him watching. Or she notices and does not acknowledge it. But Lara. This point, it is impossible to know which. The lawyers shake hands. Someone produces a bottle of moat. Always moat at these things. It is a Lagos law of commerce, and glasses are poured. Kevin lifts his. Lara lifts hers. Their eyes meet across the table for 1 second. She nods at him. Single, professional nod. The nod of a woman who has closed a deal and is already thinking about the next one. Then she turns to speak to the board chairman on her left. And Kevin is behind her. And that is the appropriate order of things. After the formalities, Lara is the last to leave. Kevin lingers. She looks up and finds him still there. Congratulations. It was a good deal. For both sides. That's the only kind worth doing. He opens his mouth. There is more he wants to say. But he reads her face, really reads it, and he understands that she has given him what she has to give. Safe travels, Mr. Adeyemi. Thank you. For everything. A deal. And the rest. She looks at him for 1 moment. Something passes through her expression. Not the present-day Lara, but a ghost of the Tejuosho Road version. Briefly surfacing. Then it is gone. The CEO is back. Take care of yourself. Genuinely. Emeka Okaforis was not a man who appeared in the headlines. He ran projects, not profiles. He had come back from Toronto with 7 years of serious work behind him, and a clear idea of the kind of architecture he wanted to do in Lagos. Not the flashiest, not buildings designed for the people who would photograph them, but buildings designed for the people who would use them. He was building a community clinic in Ikorodu that his team had worked on for a year below cost because it needed to exist. He had designed a co-working space in Badagry with proper ventilation and natural light, because he understood that the people most in need of good infrastructure were the ones least likely to get it. He knew the names of the people who built his buildings, and showed up to the site on Saturdays, not because he was checking on the work but because he liked to see things being made. He was not Kevin Adeyemi. He did not drive a G-Wagon. He was the kind of man who had come from abroad and found Lagos, found this woman, and decided both were worth staying for. He had been present the night Lara got the call that her expansion into Abuja had been approved by the regulatory body, And he had done something Kevin would never have done. He had not asked what it meant for the company's valuation. He had lifted her off her feet in the kitchen at 11:30 p.m. and danced her around the tiles in his socks badly, with enormous commitment, and said, I told you, did I not tell you? Over and over until she was laughing too hard to confirm that yes. He had in fact told her. That was Emeka. Showing up for the moment. Not the headline. The moment. Lara had told him, once, late at night on the balcony, about the Igusi night. About how Kevin had sat by the door, already half gone, and said what he said and left while the pot was still warm. Emeka had listened all the way through. When she finished he said, I'm sorry that happened to you. Not because of what it means for me. But because you didn't deserve it. And you handled it better than any person should have to handle a thing like that. Lara had looked at him for a long time. Then she said, That's the first time anyone has said sorry for that night who wasn't doing it to get something back. I'm not asking for anything, Lara. I never am. I'm just glad you're here. She took his hand. She looked at the lagoon. The city hummed below them, generous and chaotic and full of 10,000 other stories, all of them unfinished, all of them Nigerian, all of them alive. Kevin Adeyemi came back from Victoria Island a different man. Not immediately. Not dramatically. The way iron changes when it has been in fire long enough. Slowly, without announcement, until one day you test it and it holds in a way it did not before. He started a youth fund. Not named after him. Named after his father, the man who worked a government job for 31 years. And died without a pension. But who had, Kevin only now understood, worked that job to send his son to a school that became the foundation of everything. The fund supported young entrepreneurs from Mushin, Ajigunal, the places the big money did not typically look at. He went back to Mushin every month. Not in the G-Wagon. In something smaller. He ate akara at the corner and talked to people and listened more than he spoke, which was new. Amara watched him change and said nothing for 3 months. Then one morning she put his tea on his desk and said,
Oga, you're different.
Good or bad different?
Like before the big money but with sense. The combination is better.
Kevin laughed. Real. Full. The kind he had stopped allowing when he decided laughter was insufficiently serious for a big man. There is a saying in Lagos that older market women use when they see a man who has lost everything to ambition and is rebuilding. "E don go find himself." It is not said with contempt. It is said with the particular understanding of a city that has watched 10,000 people do exactly this. Go get, lose, search, find, rebuild. Lagos does not judge the search. It respects the returning. Kevin Adeyemi was finally learning this. Lagos would wait. It always does. 1 year after the deal closes. Saturday evening. Kevin is in Mushin. He is at the opening of the first property built by his youth. Fund, a co-working space and skills center. On the street 2 blocks from where he grew up. The architect who designed it is, by coincidence or by Lagos's particular sense of humor, Emeka Okaforis. Kevin shakes Emeka's hand at the opening. It is the first time they have met properly. Not as a shadow in a story, Kevin told himself about Lara, but as 2 men who have built things, standing in a city that made them both. The handshake is firm. The look between them carries everything it needs to carry and releases it. It's a good building. It's a good idea. The building is just the outside. They stand in the evening light and watch the young people fill the space that was built for them. Kevin looks at their faces, hungry, purposeful, full of the specific Lagos energy that does not know how to accept that something is impossible, and he recognizes them. He is from them. He had forgotten. He has remembered. Lara Davis is not at the opening. She is in Abuja, signing a deal that will change the infrastructure of West African finance for the next decade. She does not think about Kevin while she signs. She does not think about the Igusi or the returned flowers. She is entirely, completely, perfectly present. That is her victory. Not the signing. The presence. That is the story. In Lagos, everybody is hustling. The wisest ones know this. Money can buy you a big man's title, but only character earns you a woman like Lara Davis. And once you prove you don't know the difference, she will never teach you twice.
Enjoying this story, please subscribe, comment, like, and share.